In 1928, Horace Wooten, wholesale grocer, decided to build a new hotel in Abilene with a motion picture theater adjacent to the hotel. The theater was to be leased to the Paramount Picture Corporation. The David Castle architectural firm was chosen to do design work for the hotel as well as the adjacent theater. The Castle firm had designed the Abilene High School on South First. A similar Spanish Moorish design was chosen for the theater to be constructed. The 1,200-seat auditorium was designed to be the finest theater between El Paso and Fort Worth. In a strange twist of fate, Thomas LeSueur, who was the father of actress Joan Crawford, was chosen to do the ornate plasterwork throughout most of the interior of the theater. Plush carpeting and fine art was spread throughout the theater to complete the ornate look and feel of this movie palace. Moving clouds projected on the ceilings as well as twinkling stars were just some of the unique features of this very unique auditorium. Let's ascend up through the mezzanine level into the balcony levels to view the auditorium from this perspective. Returning to the ground level, we can now see the 3 levels of the balcony as well as a projection booth. Now for a look around the backstage area. The entire town turned out on May 18, 1930 to witness the grand opening of the Paramount Theatre. Actress Carole Lombard starred in the feature film Safety in Numbers. At that time, the major studios, like Paramount, controlled the film distribution. Independent film distributors sued against this practice and forced Paramount and the other studios to separate film production from distribution. At that time, the Paramount Theater became a part of the interstate theater chain headed by Carl Havassel. Let's now take a look at what went on in the projection room.
Now this is cool. This is the kind of projection room that they used to use years ago. You'll notice there are 2 projectors over here, identical, both pointing at the screen. Now of course your reel of film is only about 20 minutes long, 18 to 20 minutes depending on the length of the reel. The film goes in the magazine right here. Of course the projector is your projection head, and this is the sound head where the sound on the film was picked up. Now the neat thing about these projectors, these are really old, and the lamps that are used to project the light are made by carbon arc. That's carbon rods that are like this. They're like welding rods that can't hold the microphone and the rods at the same time. But they actually run together and they burn, and that's what produces the light. Now I'm going to show you how these things work. I know that this finger is 4 inches long because I knew back in the old days if I had 4 inches of carbon, I could run 1 reel. And of course now these carbons need to be changed out a little bit here. We loosen it up, move the feed back. Okay, having a little trouble with it. It's old, like me. Now, our negative carbon is in place. Now, my positive carbon is too small to use, so I've got a brand new stick of carbon here, and I'll take and roll this back, removing the old piece of carbon. See, I burned that down very small. Run my new carbon in. Lock it down. And I'm ready to go. Well, now the next thing to do is to load on reel number 2, since reel number 1 is already threaded up in our projector. There's 8 seconds between the cue marks on reel number 1, so I thread up on our countdown leader on number 7, then run it down to number 6. And since there's 8 seconds between the cue marks, that means that I'm 2 seconds into reel number 2 when it hits the screen. Therefore, you don't see that 3, 2, that's so annoying sometimes. This is the gate. I've loaded the film in gate. Now, that's the take-up sprocket. Next comes the intermittent sprocket. This sprocket turns and stops 24 times a second, giving the illusion of motion. Next is a sound drum, where a little sliver of light shines through the film and falls onto a photocell. Then, of course, the film goes to the bottom feed sprocket that feeds into the bottom magazine. Well, it's 2 o'clock. It's time to start the show. So what do? I open my lamp house, make sure that my carbons are trimmed. I know that I've got 4 inches of carbon, so I can run this reel. So I'll throw the big switch in the back of the projector, and I actually have to physically bump the carbons together. And you see what happens there? An arc of electricity jumps across those carbons, and they actually make light that goes onto the screen. Well, it's time to get the show started.
In 1986, the Paramount Theater was restored to its former grandeur by a group of civic-minded citizens. However, here in the projection room, you can see evidence of that 55 years of changing technology, including the recently installed digital projector and updated sound system. During my period at the Paramount Theater, 1958 through 1961, this area was the sole dominion of the projectionist. As we depart the projection room, we enter the third balcony and on down into the lobby area. Here we'll see some of the original art and some that has been replaced. Hope you've enjoyed the tour and some of my memories. Thanks.